Welcome back, grade 11s. I hope you are well rested and ready to tackle on the next topic, which is your stress, your crisis, and change management. Now, as you remember, this is divided into three segments, and we are going to look at them in detail. Now, you must note to say that when we are looking at stress, we are focusing on the meaning of stress. So you must know what stress is. And also, you must be able to know that there are different causes of stress in the workplace, and for that, we need to have stress management that will ensure that our employees do not have stress when they are working, as it affects the business operations. And then when we move to crisis, you must know the meaning as well as the examples of crisis in the workplace and how we can deal with crisis when it occurs. We must also know, when it comes to change, the management or the change management rather, the meaning as well as the causes of change. Now let's quickly look at the terms and definitions that you are going to come across when we look at this topic. Firstly, stress, which is the state of, very importantly, mental as well as emotional strain that results from adverse and demanding circumstances. Now, we will also come across affirmative action, which is a policy that requires businesses to offer equal opportunities. Now, here is what is most important. We are focusing on ensuring that there is equal opportunities to previously disadvantaged individuals. You also have change management, which is a process used by a business to deal with change and developments in the business. You have the word contingency, which simply means a provision for a possible event or a circumstance. You also have the word proactive, which is simply described as controlling a situation rather than just responding to it when it happens. Now, very important to note is that you might make a mistake between the meaning of crisis and stress. Now, remember that stress, let's start with stress. Stress is a mental strain that is faced by an individual. So when you have stress, you are going to face different things on your own because you are the one that is facing the stress. But when we talk about crisis, this is a disaster that causes harm to all of us. So for instance, if I have stress, I will have a mental strain or an emotional strain, and I will go through it alone. But when there is a crisis, for example, a fire in the building, all of us are going to face that crisis and we must deal with it together. Now, there's also a possibility that you might struggle to come up with the strategies to deal with globalization and affirmative action. Now, to rectify that misconception, you must make sure that you know exactly what globalization means as well as what affirmative action means. Now, we will remind each other when we get to it. Let's start with the meaning of stress. Now, as I have stated before, stress looks or focuses on your mental and your emotional strain that results from adverse or demanding circumstances. Or in simple terms rather, you can have stress when you are faced with a lot of things that you need to do and the time pressures of doing that particular task. Now, it is very important to note that it is the response of a person's body to anything that requires more action or work from an individual than normal. So like I said, when you have stress, you are going to have a physical and a mental strain that your body is going to respond to. Now, what causes stress? We have heavy workload, unrealistic targets rather, and deadlines. Now, meaning that you have a lot of work to do, but the time frame is really small. Now that will give you stress because you are looking at the possibilities of not being able to finish that task on time. Now, there are other causes of stress, but let's focus on conflict. Remember that when you are in conflict with your colleagues, then it is very difficult for you to perform your tasks effectively and on time. So it is very important to note that conflict looks at the disagreement between two or more people in the workplace. Also, working long hours without breaks. Now imagine a scenario where you are supposed to work from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. and in that period of time you are not given a time to rest. This will definitely cause stress. Now, you must also remember to say that you need to have a stress management system in the workplace to ensure that your employees do not have stress. And it is important for you to manage stress because if you do not, it can lead to absenteeism in the workplace. Because your employees are stressed and they have mental strain, there are more chances that they might not come to work, reason being that they are either uncomfortable working or they have health issues that may have developed because of the stress. Now, also you must remember that because you are stressed, you have high chances of making poor decisions and errors, or you are going to make incorrect judgments in times of crisis. Now let us look at how is it that employees manage stress in the workplace. Very important, you must be able to create a balanced lifestyle, meaning that you must focus on your work and focus on your personal life and have a balance between the two, so that you do not have a mental strain. Also, following a balanced diet is very important. Now let's look at crisis. So crisis, like I said, is an unforeseen event that causes major changes in the organization. Now the examples looks at fire, also breakdown in machinery and an accident. Now, if you remember, you will note to say that all these are faced by a group at large and not an individual. Now, how can we manage crisis in the workplace? It is very important that we need to first evaluate the nature of the crisis before we deal with it. So in other words, we must know exactly what is happening so that we know how to deal with it. And then we must also inform experts. So in a case of a fire, you will call an expert in the field to help to solve the crisis. Now, also very important is that we need to respond to crisis immediately so that it does not have more effects. Now, take again a break and process what I have told you. Think about how do you make a difference between, or how rather do you differentiate between stress and crisis. As you think about it, I will give you some time and we will come back. See you soon.